so confused. Welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along my co-host Glenn Martin. I don't know if any of you guys saw the conniption there, but I think that was right before we went live. I'm not sure.
The conniption. First of all, you continue to use words that are far too old for you. I mean, dude, conniption?
Yeah, you're having a conniption? Like, are you
Dude,
like...
Who says that word that's below the age of 55? I need to know. Other than you. That's it. That's it. I mean, conniption.
Yeah, man. But of course, and as always, DK's in the background running the show. And I think this one's going to be a fun one tonight. We always try and make sure the content is relevant and exciting for you guys. And it generally is, as long as Glenn and I are both here. And DK makes us look really smart. But
generally is, as long as we're here.
Because
man,
it's just kind of how it goes.
A real asshole right there, dude.
I'm kidding. Of course, I'm joking. But my point is that I'm really excited about this conversation tonight. Yeah. First of all, Glenn, how you doing?
Doing well. I'm waiting for this lull of no sports other than summer league basketball to be over. And tomorrow, luckily, O's are back on the field to hopefully continue the streak they put together before the All-Star break. So yeah, excited to be with you guys here tonight. Excited to talk about this topic because I always get fired up when talking about other teams in the division. But before we get started, what's going on, Tyler? Appreciate you coming out. Jackson, Connor, what's up, Mike? What's going on, Marcel? Appreciate you guys coming out. Yeah, but anytime we can, because look, we're gonna not just be some blind homers here. We're gonna keep it real. But I'm not here for some of these national narratives that just want to give guys awards based on maybe name, reputation. No, we're going to go down and we're going to look at every position group in the AFC North and we're going to rank them. We're going to see where the Ravens stack up in every position against their immediate, opponents in the North. Because look, that's goal one, right? You win your division. That's step one for every team. Win the division, and then you take it from there. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to get into it because I think the Ravens are going to stack up quite favorably.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I don't think it will be – obviously, there's going to be a bit of subjectivity to this because we're Ravens fans. It just kind of comes with the territory. But I don't think it's too far of a stretch. My buddy who's a Bengals fan and I were talking about this the other day, kind of do a little bit of a positional breakdown. So I'm excited to talk about it. And no love lost for any of these divisional teams. No. Some other teams in the NFL I'm like indifferent about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the NFC. Like the Niners, like they're the NFC. Like I don't. We play them once every 4 years or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? But anyone in the AFC North,
exactly.
I don't like any of them. So, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to ping pong offense, defense, and we're going to start inside out. So we're going to start right up front with the big boys in the defensive line that was a mistake. Shout
out to StreamYard.
That's right. Shout out to StreamYard. Not a sponsor of the show. No. But yeah, so let's talk about it, Glenn. Should we? I guess we don't have to go through every single guy, but we can kind of talk about the mainstays for the depth chart. Is there a team you want to start with here? Is there a particular order that we want to follow for each team to kind of get through this or each group to kind of get this in a uniformed way?
Well, I think inside out makes sense, but when you talk D-line, I want to make sure we're on the same page here. We're not including the outside linebackers in D-line, right? Just the interior defensive linemen, right?
Right. That's correct.
Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, we can start there. And we'll just kind of give an overview of who the expected starters are going to be at those positions. Now, we know injuries will most certainly take place. So this list is subject to change as the injuries will no doubt stack up everywhere. All right. So let's start at Pittsburgh. Okay. We'll start at Pittsburgh.
My favorite team.
Exactly. I figured that would be a good place to kick it off. Well, their big guy up front, of course, is Cameron Hayward. I mean, you can't get much better than Cam Hayward. I'm a Ravens fan, but I'm also, smart enough to understand, and I'm not that bright, but I'm smart enough to understand that Cam Hayward is one of the very best at his position, right behind Aaron Donald. He's right up there with all those.
Even as a vet, still super productive.
Yeah, and also the leadership. I mean, what he does he makes guys.
He would have been a great Raven.
He would have been. He would have fit right in.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know, right? I feel bad for him. Keanu Benton is their starting nose tackle, and Larry Ogunjobi is their left side defensive end. So he's another quality player, a guy who's bounced around. I think Cincinnati is missing him, and so he's a heck of a player. So that's the group representing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you have the Cincinnati Bengals, led by DJ Reader in the inside, who's a hell of a player. Had some injury issues, certainly since he's gotten there, but has been a heck of a player, all the way back to his days with Houston. So he can play. BJ Hill, the dude can play. I think he's a good player. I don't know if we can count, I don't think we can count the outside guys in this group. So it's those guys, then Josh, is it Tupou? I think or Tupou is backing up. Okay, Tupou is backing up DJ Reader. So look, that's a good group if they're healthy and been on the field enough. And then the Browns, they have Dalvin Tomlinson as their starting D tackle. I think he's a good player. And then they have Jordan Elliott also on the inside as the right side starting D tackle. They got Siaki Ika.
There you go.
Ika. And Maurice Hurst backing those guys up, okay? And who's the Ravens got representing in the inside, Jimbo?
I like how you leave the easy one for me.
Hey, so, I took on the challenges.
I know. First of all, I know all these guys. Second of all, they're all easy names for the most part. So I appreciate you taking the bullet. Appreciate you taking the bullet for that one. So Michael Pierce, of course. Yeah. And the big name missing here is Calais Campbell. He's down in Atlanta. But Michael Pierce and Broderick Washington are guys up there. But, you talk about depth. You got Travis Jones, who we're expecting a lot out of, and Brent Urban, who's a productive vet is a proven guy here in Baltimore. So those are the four I would consider up front.
Okay.
This is an interesting one for me because I think that my instinct is to probably put Pittsburgh number one because they might have the best. I mean, I think they have the best player there. I think Cam Hayward I think he has a case to be in the Hall of Fame one day.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think you can say that anywhere else, but you brought up, I think the other teams have a little, not just the Ravens, but even the Bengals, barring health, they might have a little more depth. Where do you go? I'll give you my first. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh number one as far as positional rankings here at the interior defensive line. Where are you going number one here?
Yeah, I agree. You got to give credit. I mean, the guy Hayward is certainly going to bring up anyone next to him and make them a lot better of a player. So I recognize this is heavily leaning because of Hayward. Yeah, but I'm not crazy. He's ridiculous. And so, because of that, he's my number one also for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll give you the rest of mine and let me know give me yours and agree to disagree anywhere you want. I'm going 2 Ravens. I'm not going far. Okay. Really, a lot of it depends on health, but I think we have the deepest unit. If you're talking about the front, like the first 4 that we named in each group, I think the Ravens have the deepest. And I'm going Bengals. Reader's a great player, like you mentioned. I would consider him in his production comparable to Michael Pierce. If Michael Pierce healthy, there might be a little bit more production from Mike. But I would consider them comparable. I just think we have a little bit more depth. That's why I put him 3 and Ravens 2. And then the Browns 4, because none of those guys to me are like big time splash players. It's hard to be a splash player in the middle, but I don't know how many of them are like, oh, I need them on my roster, difference makers. So I put Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincy, Cleveland.
Yeah. I have it the exact same order. I think that's very fair. Some may, I'm sure Bengals fans would try and argue, but no. I mean, Justin Metabike and Broderick Washington are 2 very good football players. And like you mentioned, Brent Urban being your main backup for those guys is not bad at all. That guy can certainly make an impact on a game. So, I think both of which Metabike and Broderick, I think, are both set to have fantastic seasons. Excuse me. I don't know if you saw, but I reached out trying to get a coach on that's been working with those guys. But fingers crossed.
That's right.
Fingers crossed. But I think both those guys are in for big seasons. So I have it the same way. And I see the same way with the Browns. So let's move. Should we move flip-flop, move to the offensive line as a whole? You just want to talk? I think that's a fair way to do it.
Let's just for sure.
Who has the best offensive line group? How do you rank them? And how do you want to kind of talk about them a little bit? Here, Jimbo? Bring them up to me.
All right. So let's do this. I'm going to start with the Bengals, right? So we're going to talk about we're just going to do the 5, unless, you think that there's a compelling case to go beyond that would change the rankings for you. But I think it's fair to start with, and we'll go left to right. So their tackle, of course, well-known, big, slow. That is Orlando Brown Jr. Left guard, Cordell Volson is who they have penciled in here. Ted Karras at center, Alex Kappa at right guard, and Jonah Williams at right tackle. But we also have, see, I already broke my own rule. Leo Collins, of course, is also a right tackle that they've signed. So
sorry.
No, it's okay. I it's hard for me to disagree with you. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, of course, let me go through them as well. Last year, they spent less money on their offensive line than Ronnie Stanley's contract alone. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, they did some things here over the offseason. Left tackle, Dan Moore Jr.
Yeah, but he ain't the left tackle, Jimbo.
Who you got as the left tackle? Who am I missing here? Broderick Jones?
Oh, yeah.
This is the new kid?
Yeah, it's their rookie.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So Broderick Jones, of course, is also there. Isaac Seumalo and Mason Cole at center, right guard James Daniels, and right tackle Chukwuma Okafor. And then his backup has a pretty cool name. It's LaRaven Clark.
He's in the wrong team.
He is, absolutely. All right, I'll keep this going, then I'll pass it off to you for the Ravens here. All right, so the Browns, left to right, Jedrick Wills Jr., Joel Bitonio, which, I mean, those two names we've known for a while now. Ethan Pochik, I think I got that right. Wyatt Teller, also another guy who's well-known, and Jack Conklin, another well-known guy there, playing at right guard. But he's had some health issues throughout his career. All right, what we got for the Ravens, Glenn? And then give me your, if you want, finish it off with some rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm going to include the team's week 1 starting left guard when I do this, okay? Just so you know. Okay. I'm ready to make the announcement.
Oh, all right.
I'm ready. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. All right, so right tackle, Morgan Moses, the vet. Right guard, right next to another vet, we got Kevin Zeitler. Tyler Linderbaum, the future All-Pro on the AFC. He'll be there soon enough. Left tackle, we got Ronnie Stanley, of course, All-World. And then left guard, starting left guard for your Baltimore Ravens. Sorry to say it's going to be John Simpson for all you fans out there that are hoping for others. It's going to be John Simpson week 1. Yes, the newcomer.
He's the vet in the room.
He's the vet. I think they go with the trusted vet. Maybe things change. I wouldn't be shocked to see, by the way, just as a side note, remember we saw a platoon? Don't be surprised if we don't see a platoon. Remember when Ronnie first came back? We were seeing him one series, then McCary the next series.
And didn't they do the same thing with Tyree Phillips and who else? That was
Ben Powers.
No, at right tackle. Big, huge dude, couple years ago. Massive. Alabama kid, first-round pick. Used to play in Seattle. Fluker.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah, so don't be surprised if there's not a platoon there to maybe figure out who's the guy,
Yeah. Shout out to Fluker. He looks like an absolute animal right now on social media trying to make a comeback to the NFL. So shout out to him. Yeah, but all right, Glenn, give me your rankings, my man.
All right, so this is a tough one because I think this is a division that's done a lot to try and make their offensive line better. I mean, Cincinnati made a big effort, Pittsburgh made a big effort, and Cleveland has had the same damn guys starting for forever. So they've been really, really talented. So they got a good offensive line. But as good as those lines are, Baltimore's got the best offensive line in this division. And honestly, look, I don't feel bad about that. I don't think that's me being a homer. I think there's other good offensive lines, but I truly believe this is one of the best 3 offensive lines in all of football. I mean, Morgan Moses, Zeitler, Linderbaum, that right side, I'll take that right side. That's a hell of a right side. Then you got Ronnie Stanley, All-World. And yeah, we don't necessarily know for sure who the left guard is, but they're picking from, I think, a pretty good crop, and I think they'll find a good replacement for Ben Powers out of one of these guys. So I got them at number 1. Do you disagree, Jimbo?
Nope, not at all. Come on, I don't disagree.
All right. Well, that's a good start. All right, second to me, and this one's easy, it's Cleveland, because I think they're right behind them in the NFL rankings, not just in the AFC North. I think they're right there, top 5 offensive line in football. I mean, Wills is a heck of a player. Batonio's, I mean, what year is that guy in? He's been around forever.
Right.
Conklin, same thing. I remember he was a beast when he was playing with the Titans. Seems like he's been a Brown for many years now. And then Wyatt Teller has been there for a while as well. So yeah, I got the Browns as my number 2. But I think this is a good offensive line division in general. Like if you stacked them up, offensive line groups around the whole league, I think this is a division that clearly made a concerted effort to make sure, they seal up those big boys up front.
Yep. I couldn't disagree with you there. I got the same top 2. Where are you going 3 and 4?
All right.
This is interesting to me. This will show how much you believe in Orlando Brown Jr., I think, at left tackle.
Big slow. Well, See, here's the thing. At least what you're going to get from him is he's going to be there every week. And he's maybe not going to be one of the, top handful of tackles. But he's at least big enough and long enough to where he's going to present at least a bit of a problem for pass rushers. So I got them slightly ahead of Pittsburgh. But I think that I wouldn't – this is subject to change because if Broderick Jones shows – that he can be what I think a lot of people are expecting him to be. He's the left tackle of the Georgia Bulldogs. I think that he could surpass Orlando Brown, and that right now is why I'm giving the Bengals the edge. But it's a very slight. I think the Steelers did a lot to make themselves better up front.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was trying to see how I could put Steelers number 3, but I just have too many question marks. I think there's a lot of young guys there that just need some time. So yeah, I agree there from an offensive line standpoint. The only thing I will say is that you talked about the starter for Baltimore, and I like your pick. I mean, I'm okay with it. And I can see how early on he ends up being the guy there because he's got the experience, right? Like the Ravens could lean on him. So that's a great point you make. But obviously, I think you wouldn't be surprised either if it's a Falele, if it's a Saleh, if it's a McCary even, right? So there's a number of solutions the Ravens have there, and I think that's a good place for them to be and just let them have true competition. But, yeah, Baltimore's number 1 in my opinion, and I don't know if it's – Cleveland's great as well, but I don't know if it's that close. Okay. But maybe that's just me being a homer. All right, so we've done offensive, defensive line. Should we get right into it? Should we go quarterback?
No, not yet. We can't go quarterback
where should we go next? You want to go edge, and we can do edge on defense. Who would do on offense?
We can go wide out.
Wide out, okay.
On offense. Right, cool. Yeah, but we're not going right to QB. Come on,
chomping at the bit here, man.
I know, man. Let's go outside linebacker next, then we'll go wide out.
This is an interesting one to me.
Actually, we should go – okay, yeah, we'll go wide out. Even though we did say we'll go inside out.
Oh, yeah, well, let's do tight end after that.
You're clearly breaking our rules.
Yeah, let's do tight end after that. You brought up the wide out, not me.
I was just trying to appease an anxious Jimbo Slimbo is what I was trying to do.
But we'll do tight end. We'll do tight end. I think that's a good.
Well, first we go outside linebacker. All right. So at outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we have, and I guess we'll have to include, because some teams run a 4-3. So like Cleveland, we're going to have to talk D end more so than outside linebacker. But for them, the pass rusher, how about let's just call it rushers? Okay. TJ Watt. Come on. As much as I can't stand the Steelers, the guy is a monster. Alex Highsmith. That's their number 1, number 2. And they added Marcus Golden. Shout out to whoever pointed that out to us after our last video when we failed to mention that. They got Marcus Golden, too, who, as we've seen, Jimbo, has quite a track record of getting to the quarterback. So that's their 3. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, who had a breakout year last year, and Marcus Golden. Cincinnati, also good group, although had some injury issues last year. They have Trey Hendrickson as their lead sack getter. And then Sam Hubbard, also very, very talented. 2 really, really good pass rushers right there with those 2 guys, no doubt about it. And then Myles Garrett leads the way for the Browns. I mean, my goodness, he's all-world, freak athlete. And then, Jimbo, they go and get Zadarius Smith to run opposite him.
I know, man. Jeez whiz. Like, it already wasn't enough.
I mean, this is a brutal group of edge rushers that we're having to compare to. And Jimbo, why don't you let the people know who the Ravens are bringing to the squared circle?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I mean, we are obviously we know who's here, and I think there's a lot of potential for upside. But you got Tyus Bowser, Adafe Owe, David Ajabo, Jeremiah Moon. I mean, I think those are the big.
You said the 3.
Yeah. I'm just grasping at straws after that.
Don't talk about. Come on now, don't be bringing up Tavius Robinson. We're not there. But yeah, those are the three, right?
Yeah, I mean those are the three, absolutely. And it would be tough for me to say right now that they're number one. Yeah, it would be a tough hill for me to die on. What's your ranking of these guys, Glenn?
Yeah, man, this is a tough one, bro. They are. I'll let you go first. I mean, man, I tell you what, man, I'm surprised I'm doing this. I'm going Cleveland first.
Cleveland.
I'm going Cleveland first, dude. Myles Garrett and Za'Darius.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Dude, Za'Darius is a walking double-digit sack waiting to happen. And then Myles Garrett is all world. I mean, I hate to say it because Za'Darius Smith pissed me off last year when he burned the Ravens and used them for leverage. But I got to admit it. I mean, and that's saying something because you're dethroning a team that's got some pretty fantastic edge rushers.
Yeah.
You disagree? I hope
no,
you do.
I don't. You're right. Now, 2 and 3 is difficult.
Not to me.
No? Are you going Pittsburgh too? Because of TJ Watt, just the top.
And Alex Highsmith went bonkers last year. He had double-digit sacks, and then they bring in Marcus Golden, who's had like how many double-digit sacks?
And then you got Bengals and Ravens, right?
Yeah, Ravens are fourth.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about the pass rush is if you look at like last year's results, you would have assumed for sure that the Ravens were dead last when it comes to like, at least if you look at this, if you just look at these rankings and like, it's a pretty decent, like, we don't think the Ravens are nipping at the heels of these guys. Like, at least I don't but yet they were top 5 in sacks in the whole league and by far number 1 in the division. So what the hell does that mean, Jimbo? When you're the worst edge group, does that say Mike McDonald deserves a whole ton of credit? Does that say, man, we got a bunch of good blitzers everywhere on the field, just not at the one spot you really...
Yeah, because that means, in my mind, it means schematically you're making up for a deficiency, right?
Yeah, so shout out to Mike McDonald getting him in the top 5 with the worst. I mean, look, it could end up being a whole different ball game if Ajabo ends up being who everyone's hyping him up to be, and if Oweh finally learns how to get to the quarterback instead of just coming close.
And even if they round it out with a guy or two, you added Justin Houston back into that with a fully healthy Ajabo and Adafe with something, a little bit more to his game. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the Bengals either, because I think right now the top 3 are closer together in a clump and the Ravens are a bit back here.
Yeah.
Like exactly. I won't say that the Bengals are better than the other 2. I don't think that's fair. I agree with you there, but because I think that Garrett and Watt are 2 of the top 3 in the league. I mean, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So Glenn, I'm going to call an audible here.
I got you.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. So DK is going to step in. I'm so sorry, guys, but you'll get to enjoy the presence of DK for a little bit. My son is absolutely freaking out. I think he might be getting sick. So I'm going to have to tag in DK officially.
Tagged.
Sorry, guys. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
DK in there. Man, DK in there, bro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
On this exciting topic.
Yeah, no doubt. So I think we agree we're going to go to tight end next. All right. Okay. So I'll quickly run through the list and then we'll see if me and you agree on how to rank them. So we'll start in Pittsburgh as we've been, and they got a pretty damn good room. Pat Freiermuth, the big guy out of Penn State who really kind of burst onto the scene last year, and then they go and get Darnell Washington to further, kind of boost that room. Which, I mean, this guy, Darnell Washington, is 6'7", 270 pounds. He is a
big man.
Yeah, he's an offensive tackle playing tight end. Third round pick out of Georgia. Another Bulldog. I mean, man, how many players did those guys have drafted this season? It's incredible. So that's their number 1 and number 2. And then their 3 is Zach Gentry is their number 3 tight end. And then the Bengals have, let's see,
that's a lot deeper than I had thought. Like the Steelers were. Sorry, they get
the big fella. Imagine their run sets when they got that big fella at the end of
That's a little scary. That'll help Mr. Najee there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's taken quite a pounding his first few years, so he'll be happy to have some running lanes. And then in Cincinnati, they get Irv Smith Jr. from the Minnesota Vikings to come over to lead their tight end room, followed by Drew Sample and Devin Asiasi. So it's not the star-studded group we just mentioned, but This one's pretty damn good. The Cleveland Browns have David Njoku leading the way, followed by Jordan Akins and then Harrison Bryant, who, when he first burst on the scene, everybody expected him to kind of take over that position, but David Njoku is not ready to let go of it. That guy is a freak athlete who oftentimes leads their team in average yards per catch despite being a tight end, which is crazy. And then, that's a good group, DK.
That's decent.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little top heavy, I think, but not bad. And then the Ravens, Mark Andrews leading the way, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kohler as R3. So, DK, of those four groups, who do you have as the number one tight end group?
Well, I mean, you can't discredit the fact that we've got an all-pro in our lineup in Baltimore. This one's tough. I like Pittsburgh, but you still have to see, we got to see with our own eyes how good that team actually, that group actually is. I'm really interested to see Darnell Washington. So I'm going to roll. So this is where I'm kind of like close, but I do think the Ravens tight end room is special. So I'm going to go there as number one. And then I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh. I like those guys. I mean, Freiermuth is solid. And I'm a little, honestly, like when Pittsburgh picked Darnell Washington, I was a little bit worried about what was going to like to me, that pick was like, we're going to go back to AFC North football and try to take it back, and so I actually really love that pick, but so I lean that way. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh number 2.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think I'll go Cleveland and then Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The
Bengals are definitely 4, right? That's a clear 4. Yeah. I mean, I like Irv Smith, but I think they're a pretty clear 4. To me, I got the Browns too.
Okay.
I think David Njoku is kind of underrated. I think if he was maybe this year, if Deshaun Watson, can kind of get back to who he was in Houston, maybe he can kind of. But that guy, if he was on a team with a halfway decent quarterback, I think he would be. Well, he'd be right up there in the league leaders.
This one's interesting too, because this one has a lot to do with how these guys have been used and will be used. Like tight end is one of those groups, like if you can use them in the run game and, maybe they don't get the recognition, but if you throw the ball to them often, and I think a lot of what happened last year was like with Deshaun, it's hard to really tell. The tight ends and really any of the skill position guys didn't really like stand out, whereas for instance, in Pittsburgh, you had a guy in a quarterback. I mean, I don't know the stats, but I'm sure, the tight ends end up being the kind of safety blanket. So you might hear those guys' names more often. And so a part of it, I think, is that, I mean, I wasn't watching down to every play for every single one of these teams, but, and then on our side, the Ravens ran the ball a lot. So those guys were featured also in the run game, but also in the pass game as well. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think Broderick Washington, or I'm sorry, Darnell Washington is a guy who makes me think, like you mentioned, they're going to get back to the run game, but he doesn't scare me at all as a pass catcher. I mean, he might be able to use his body as a basketball, but he ain't separating from anyone on our. I mean, just personally, like the Ravens defense is so fast. It's probably the fastest defense in football, and I just can't imagine Darnell Washington getting open on anyone on our defense. Like, so the only way he can make catches is if he's literally bodying someone out of the play and making a contested catch every time, which in the NFL, it's hard to really live in that zone when you can't separate. And but I do think he'll help in the run game. And so I do have them at 3. All right, let's move to inside linebacker. All right. Because We're talking about bouncing back and forth inside and out. Let's talk a little inside linebacker. And this is I think a division that's a little, I don't think it's the best. This is probably one of the weaker positions outside of Baltimore across the league. I mean, across the division here. So on the inside, they got Cole Holcomb, who the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in to be their tackling machine. They got a Landon Roberts. They got Tanner Muse and Mark Robinson backing those guys up. I am not at all. I mean, I think Cole Holcomb's a tackling machine, like I mentioned, but that is not a group that's going to blow your hair back. That's for damn sure. Now, the Bengals, they got Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt. I think Logan Wilson is an underrated player. I think he's a good player in both the run and pass. I give him credit. I think he's a heck of a player. Jermaine Pratt, he's okay. He's a solid player. And then the Browns, they have JOK, who had a crazy, beginning to his career, but then a bit of a down year last year. And so I think he's looking to bounce back. And then Anthony Walker Jr., who I think is an underrated guy around the league, but he's a good player. I think he's a solid player. Yeah. But Baltimore leads this one, right?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't this. I just reading over those names again. I'm like, man, this one really. Where you were talking earlier about the number of sacks, like this is where the whole linebacking core, both inside and outside, really contribute. So it would have been interesting if we had sort of put them together collectively. Yeah. Might have been more of a competition because we're so far behind on the outside, but so far ahead on the inside.
That's a good point. Yep.
So it's kind of interesting, but I agree with you. Ravens all the way, number one here.
Yeah,
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know where to put the other ones. Like they're all, again, kind of like good, but none of those guys on the other three teams really stand out to me, to be honest.
Right. I mean, I think the way I would do it, I think Holcomb's a bit underrated. I think he can make some plays. But I'm going to have the Bengals number 2 because of Logan Wilson, because I think he's a good player. I think
that's fair.
I mean, he's 150 tackles waiting to happen. He'll get you a handful of interceptions every year. He pretty much posts every single week. He doesn't miss games. So I'm going to give them, but you're right. It's a bad group everywhere else other than Baltimore. So I got the Bengals number 2, Steelers number 3. You know what? It's not a big, I'm going to put the Steelers 4. I'm going to give the Browns 3 because I actually hadn't written it down yet. And JOK, the last I remember him was being a thorn in the side of Lamar Jackson. So I know he's got it in him.
Right. That's true. I mean, and he's not a traditional linebacker. And definitely not a traditional AFC North linebacker. And so this is also one of those positions that are kind of have to be considered, kind of a hybrid, or at least him, JOK, hybrid from another position too. He can play safety. And but yeah, I agree. I mean, he's such he can be an impact player. So I see what you're saying there.
And just for the Ravens, like this is possibly, I mean, I think it's us and the Niners as far as having the best 2 inside linebacker duo in all of football. I mean, it's because you got to give respect. Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw. Okay. Yeah. Them 2 guys, they're monsters. But
yes,
the Ravens are right there, dude. I mean, they are.
I agree.
Yeah. So any team, any division, I think the Ravens would have stacked up at number 1 in that spot. But this one, it's a pretty big gap. But let's move to running back, because this one I think is kind of an interesting one, because the Ravens, while having depth, we still haven't seen them outside of the Greg Roman system. So I think there's some unknown there. But Pittsburgh, of course, has their horse, Najee Harris, but backed up by Jalen Warren and, of course, Maryland Terp. Anthony McFarland Jr. is third string. Cincinnati Bengals, they lost their longtime backup, a backup that I think fans were calling for to be the starter last year in Samaje Perine, but they still have Joe Mixon as their lead back, Chase Brown backing him up. And then Cleveland's got Nick Chubb. They lost they don't have Kareem Hunt anymore. So that certainly helped or hurt their depth, but they still got Demetric Felton, who I think had a nice little rookie season last year. And then of course, Baltimore, everyone knows We got Dobbins, we got Gus, and we got Justice Hill. And I know fans are excited about Keaton Mitchell, but we're not going to count him right now. He hasn't done enough yet. But who do you have as your number? Because this is a tough one here, DK.
This is difficult.
Yeah, who you got your number one group?
Oh man. All right. So I'm gonna say Baltimore because we have some of the depth. So if I'm looking at the combination between the two top guys, then I like Baltimore because I love JK and I love Gus. Mm-hmm. The two of them together, which I mean you're going to play them during the game, but neither of those guys are the top running backs of the four teams of the division. So,
well, how would you rate the running backs quickly if you had to just one running back each?
All right, so then I would go Nick Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Don't you do it, DK. I'll jump right to the screen.
Right.
Don't you do it.
Oh, man. Okay. I would go J.
Don't.
I'm going to go JK.
Because I thought you were about to go another J area. I thought you were going to go. Okay. All right.
No, I like Joe Mixon. I'd probably go Joe Mixon number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not super convinced with Najee Harris as a running back, standalone running back. He could fit a system, but I would go Gus and then Najee.
Okay. All right. So
I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, to me, I got, look, I'm a Ravens fan, but Nick Chubb is just
you can't go. Yeah.
He's such a freak. And so as much as I like JK and I like Gus, I mean, I hate to say it, but I got the Browns as the number one group because I think he is just that special of a back. I think he's just unbelievable. But I have the Ravens right on their heels because of what you said.
Yeah.
Like, while I have him way ahead of, I think he's definitely the lead back, the best back in this division. I think that Gus Edwards is the best second back by far in this division. So he brings the total room up in a big, big way to number 2. And then for number 3, I got the Steelers. I'm not.
I was about to say, who do you like, Joe Mixon or Najee?
I'm not the biggest Mixon guy. I now this year's a big year for him, and he might bounce back. But I thought last year his backup outplayed him, and I think Najee has been just crippled with a horrible offensive line since he's been there. He's gotten the workload, which most people would envy, but he's had some tough sledding with that workload. And of course, with a quarterback who doesn't, at this point hasn't scared defenses enough to make them have a light box, he's had some tough sledding. So I think the Steelers, I got Najee as the number 3 and the Steelers in general as the number 3 running back room. And also I'm a little partial to McFarland since he's a Terp.
All right, fine. Yeah, that's fine. I think Najee, just real quick with Najee, like it's because his quarterback he's just starting out in the league, right? Needs kind of a security blanket. I was hoping for more of a connection, getting out of the backfield, catching a ton of passes, also, bunch of runs wherever he can get it. Like it kind of seemed like excuse after excuse. And I'm like, I'm starting to not see where it's like, where is his strength where he's like, all right, just this part of the game, I'm going to dominate. That's my only thing with Najee Harris. I mean, I think he's also a funny guy and great character and already a strong leader in their locker room. But that's my thing with him.
Yeah. No, I got you. I can see that.
So
it's a tough one. That's a tough one. But you want to move to safety?
Well, yeah, we can. But before I don't want to forget because I've got 2 jobs. I want to make sure we get the super chat in. We have Ore Oba to Ase says, just curious about how much you think Todd uses likely in the slot. The guy just moved to too smooth.
Yeah, that's man, I'm interested to see that too, because I think we'll definitely see Andrews periodically in the slot. But will he use both tight ends like he did at Georgia? I mean, he seemingly will put the best guy on the field and likes to find mismatches wherever they can be. But I got to imagine the only way we see a heavy dose of likely is if there's injuries to the outside guys, because there's just so many talented wideouts to put him in the slot. You're going to take Bateman out of it. You're going to take Flowers. You're going to take OBJ out of that spot. So, I mean, that'd be the only way. But I do think that he'll have a role in this offense, injuries or not, just how often he'll be flexed out. That could be injury dependent.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you.
Look at that. I like this guy better. DK, stick around. That damn Jimmy. He always disagrees. All right, let's talk safety then, because we're bouncing back and forth. We'll start in Pittsburgh, and this is a division that's still good at safety, but lost some big, heavy hitters, especially the team we'll talk about next. Minkah Fitzpatrick leads the way in Pittsburgh, all-world safety, no doubt about it. But they also got DeMonte Casey and Keanu Neal, who I'm not ready to just forget about, who I think has got some football left in them. So they're really good. Cincinnati is the team. I mean, they lost 2 stud tight ends, so it's going to be interesting how they bounce back. Now they still got Dax Hill, I think, is a player, Michigan guy. I think he can certainly play, and they got Nick Scott, at the strong side. So they got some talent, but man, they lost 2 Pro Bowlers, and that's going to hurt. Yep. And then the Browns here, they have Grant Delpit, who, out of LSU, I thought it was going to be a really, really good player, and I don't think has quite lived up to the hype just yet, but he's got some football in him. And then Juan Thornhill is their leading free safety on this depth chart. So what do you think about that group? And then, of course, I guess I should give the Ravens here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I should start. And then they have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. Of course, I think it's a pretty solid group. How do you have these guys ranked? Well,
I'm going to start with the last team you mentioned. I'll go with the Ravens, because they're both positions are solid, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if either one of the guys, or maybe both those guys, are getting near that Pro Bowl status. And I mean, that to me, they have the benefit of the rest of the defense is extremely strong, and so they're just going to benefit from that. I'm pretty excited about that combination. Those guys just running around the field, tackling guys and catching balls out of the air. So I think these the Ravens definitely have the strongest tandem in the division.
Well, DK, imagine if Marcus Williams doesn't break his wrist in week 3, he had 3 picks through 2 games.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Like, what kind of season would he have put together had he not broke his wrist?
Yeah, no, it would have been something pretty amazing, I think. And so hopefully we're going to see it this year.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah.
But as far as, I agree. I think Ravens number 1, but right behind them, I think it's Pittsburgh. I mean, Minkah, he's an all-pro type player. Casey can absolutely play. And I think, Keanu Neal's kind of like a big safety, small linebacker. Right. So he's kind of in a weird spot, but they got a good group.
Yeah. I mean, so would you say that Minkah's the best safety in the division?
I think that's fair to this point. I mean, look, I'm a homer, so I like our guys, but he's the most accomplished by far. And, he's made a lot of plays in this league. So I'll give him the top one, but I think Marcus Williams is very
not
close.
Too far behind. Yep.
Yeah, and then Kyle Hamilton, I think, is going to be a future star in this league. He was the number 1 rated safety of PFF last year, albeit in a role where he was set up for success. But still, if you're number 1 at anything, that's pretty damn special. So I think watch out for him having a big year.
Hey, I'm right there with you. Now, what about the next 2? I'm curious what you think.
Oh man, it's not a group that it's not easy to pick between these 2, but I would say I'm going to give. Oh man, this is tough. I'm going to give the slight edge to Cincinnati because I like Dax Hill. Only because I like Dax Hill. I'm a Dax Hill guy. But
that's interesting. I was going to go the other way because I have some feelings about Delpit. Like he's had flashes, and so that's what I'm leaning on. Dax Hill's good too. Anyway, I think honestly, it's to me, it's like a preference.
It's like, to me, it's like, who cares? Because they're both garbage.
They're both at the bottom.
Yeah,
they're both at the bottom.
They're in a wide gap between the Ravens, Pittsburgh, and then those other 2.
That's right.
But all right, let's move into wide receiver because it's finally a time, DK, where the Ravens aren't guaranteed penciled in at number 4. I mean, shout out. You know,
these are exciting days.
Yeah, so I'm going to say let's count the top 4 of each team. I think that's a good number to put out. We're not going to talk all 6. We're not, crazy here. But all right, so we'll talk the top 4. So the Steelers, have Deontay Johnson, heck of a route runner, one of the better ones in the league. George Pickens, who obviously burst on the scene last year. And then, by the way, Calvin Austin has some bone to pick with the Ravens, and it's like, get over it, dude.
What's the deal there?
He thought the Ravens were going to take him, and when they didn't, he's like all salty. It's a whole thing. It's like, dude, who cares? And then Allen Robinson, who fan base is really excited about this guy. I would say let him do something. I haven't seen this guy do anything in years.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not here to bash them. So
signing though. Yeah.
They probably got, they got him for good, cheap money. So they got Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, and Allen Robinson II. Now the Bengals, this is a good crew. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and then whoever the hell else you want to pick behind those 3, because that's all the 3 that really matter.
You really need.
Yeah, that's all you freaking need. But they got Charlie Jones as the number 1 or the 4th receiver on the depth chart. So, man, that's a heck of a group. And then the Browns, man, they're hype about Elijah Moore. They think he's going to be something special. They have Amari Cooper, of course, the elder statesman there, who's a heck of a player. Donovan Peoples-Jones, deep ball threat, also a good player. And then they have Marquise Goodwin as another speed guy. But don't, I know I said I only talk about 4, but Anthony Schwartz, I think, would be like Goodwin and Schwartz are going to be interchangeable depending on who's healthy.
Yeah.
So I'll put both those guys in there. And then, of course, the Ravens, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, and Nelson Aguilar. I'll put up there over my guy Devin Duvernay just for this exercise. So who do you have as number 1 out of those groups?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to go with Cincinnati. I mean, you haven't been watching football if you can't pick Cincinnati here, as much as it sucks to say. But, I mean, with that team, it's just a matter of how long can they keep those top 3 guys. If they can keep them a long time together, then they'll do very well for a long time. But after that,
say it, DK.
I mean, I love it. I love our team. I love our team. Now, again, it's on paper. We got a new offensive coordinator. We got the talented guys. They've never played together. They've never played in the system, but all signs point in a very positive direction, and I'm going to ride that. So I'm going to confidently say the Baltimore Ravens are number 2 in this ranking. And then I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh always has a strong wide receiving core, and I don't think this year is that much different.
Hey, you remember Mapletron? Remember when Steelers fans were trying to convince us that Mapletron was going to take over the league?
Well, okay. I'll say something about that, though. I mean, this is why I know the Steelers are smart there. They traded him.
They did. They got him the hell out of town.
Right? I mean, look, in college, he had the potential, and
as a rookie, he had like 9 tutties.
Yeah. I mean, so, he played solid, but I think he just wasn't a cultural fit to the team. And,
right. Well, apparently he doesn't like to work at all, and Chicago is hating him.
Well,
that's what I've been hearing. They're absolutely hating him.
The Steelers made a smart decision.
Steelers fans were telling us how this guy is the greatest thing. He's Mapletron. He's going to take over. Anyway. Chase Claypool.
Nah. Right. But they still have a strong wide receiver core now. And, I mean, they're rounding out 3rd, but I think they're a strong 3rd. And then I got Cleveland in the end. I mean, they're also decent. I mean, Cooper, he's been solid, but Elijah Moore, I like him. We'll see how he produces on the Browns, and we'll see. But I think they're on the caboose on this one.
Yeah, but I think you're right. It's not there's not a stinker of a room. Like I don't look at even the Browns at 4. I don't look at their room and go, they have no talent. Like I think Donovan Peoples-Jones can play. Elijah can.
Yeah,
I think Elijah's had a tough start, but I think he's got some football in him. Amari Cooper's, he's one of the best route runners in all of football. So
yeah.
let's not It's a pretty good group. So, all right, let's move to cornerback.
Oh,
because this one's interesting. I think this one's going to be kind of a tough one to grade. But let me start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who added a pretty high-profile couple of names to theirs. They go out and draft Joey Porter Jr. to take over one starting cornerback spot, and then they add Patrick Peterson, the veteran, the old guard, who apparently is being renewed by this system, and we'll see. Man, I'm sorry, I got the hiccups here. And then they got my guy also. So they drafted 2 cornerbacks this year. Corey Trice, was my guy.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not thrilled about that because he's a big physical cornerback.
Yeah, we'll see how he fits in.
Yep, exactly. Give me a second here, man. I got the hiccups here. Hang on. If you want to give the Bengals, do you have it up?
Yeah, I do have it up. The Bengals are starting Chidobe Awuzie, and then they've got Cam Taylor Britt on the other side. Are we looking at the top 2 guys, or are we going deeper than that?
Let's go 4.
Okay. All right. So what I got on my depth chart here, DJ Turner. That's right. DJ Turner just got selected by the Bengals. And then we've also got Mike Hilton as another corner in Cincinnati. And where we go? So
Cleveland.
All right. Cleveland's interesting. So, and I actually like this group. So we've got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, the second. You're starting. Right behind them, this depth chart, we've got Martin Emerson Jr. and AJ Green the third here. The top looks strong here. And then, of course, in Baltimore, we're starting an all-pro in Marlon Humphrey. And slotted now to start is Rock Ya-Sin on the opposite end. We also have Pepe Williams as another corner. And then it's kind of gray from here. Jalen Armour Davis, you could slot him in as maybe number 4. Some people will nudge Brandon Stevens maybe back to corner spot but it's around, the top 2 guys are known. Maybe the guys behind that are a little bit further behind. But yeah, what do you think? How would you rank these teams, these 4 teams?
This is tough, man. This is a tough one because everybody has holes. Like everybody's got those issues on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, on the cornerback where I'm like, I don't know.
Well, there's also promising young talent too.
Yeah, and the problem is that it's promising, but you're not proven. So it's like, how do we really rank these guys? And we haven't quite seen it yet. The way I have it, I got the Ravens at number 1. And the reason being is I think they have the best corner in the division. And then I think Rock Ya-Sin is very solid. I don't think Rock Ya-Sin is a terrible number 2. When I compare him across all these number 2s, I go, he stacks up just fine against all these guys. I know Newsome has the pedigree as far as when he was drafted, but he hasn't lived up to that grade. Right. And Pittsburgh, whoever you want to put, Patrick Peterson is 35. I mean, I don't know if I put him above Rock Ya-Sin. I don't think so. I mean, maybe. Depends on the role. So for that reason, I'm going to have the Ravens number 1. Sounds like you have a different number 1.
Well, I have a question for you.
All right.
How highly do you rank Denzel Ward?
I think he's the second best in the division.
In the division.
So yeah, I think he's a good corner. I just think the physicality difference is what gives Marlon the reason I'm ranking him above is because he brings it from a physicality standpoint. I don't think Denzel does, but he's a hell of a cover corner.
Yeah, it's tough.
But then Awuzie is a monster with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I mean he's all right. I
mean he's good when he's healthy. He's had health issues.
Healthy. That's true. I tend to lean Cleveland number 1. This is kind of the same philosophy I had. Like when you put the top 2 guys together, I kind of think they're the aggregate of their talents might outweigh the fact that on the Ravens you've got Marlon Humphrey, who I agree he's the best corner in the division, but I'm not sure what's behind that. So I'd like the pairing. So I'll go Cleveland number 1, Baltimore number 2, And man, and then
it's tough though, man. This is a tight, like 1 and 4.
Yeah.
There's not a big gap between
There's
1
not-
and 4.
Yeah, but they play different styles, and then there's different kind of levels of experience that come with the guys, and so it's a little hard to. So who do you have 3 and 4 then?
See, I don't even know if I have the Browns too. I think they have the second best corner in the whole division, but I look at because I look at the Bengals and I go, well, Mike Hilton's pretty good. You know, they drafted DJ Turner, who's the fastest player in the whole draft on either side of the ball. Awuzie, if he's healthy, can play. So, but then I look at the Steelers and I go, but damn, that's Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter and my guy Corey Trice. But a reason I have them, I have the Steelers 4, and the reason is because of the unproven factor, and like we don't know if Joey Porter is going to get too handsy and he'll just get called for too many damn PIs to be an effective corner. Or if Corey Trice, if his foot speed's there because he's a big physical guy, and then if Patrick Peterson, what's he got left at that age? So I think there's the most question marks surrounding the Steelers. So they're 4, in my opinion. Man, I'm really torn about 2 and 3. I think the Browns and the Bengals are really interchangeable there. If I'm going to say the Browns are 2, the Bengals are 3, but I'm fine if you have the Bengals at 2. I think you'd be fine there as well.
No, okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Where are we going next?
Dude, we just did them all. I think we just finished.
Was that? Well,
special teams, right? Oh, no. Well, we got one spot left. Quarterback. How did I forget? Quarterback. The last one, the one we were saving for the end.
That was a softball pitch to you, man.
And I just whiffed. All right. So quarterbacks are, of course, Kenny Pickett for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, are we also looking at backups too? What's the?
No, just the starters.
All right.
Look, it's like Tom Moore said, Tom Moore. If Peyton Manning gets hurt, we're fucked anyway. All right. And the same can be said for every quarterback in this division. If they're hurt, their team's screwed. Every team in the league, really. But that's Pittsburgh leads the way. Kenny Pickett looking to kind of finally burst onto the scene this season. Joey Burrow has already done it, obviously, in Cincinnati. And then we have the serial pervert in Cleveland, Deshaun Watson. And then, of course, number 1 in your hearts, number 8 in your program, Lamar Jackson leading the way in Baltimore. So I'm kind of interested to see how you have these guys ranked, and I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm going to go with the Ravens and Lamar number 1. And that's because I'm trying not to be a homer. And I feel like I'm not impartial. Like that's unfair to say, but I think I tend to think that I think pretty clearly on this stuff. But Lamar Jackson can hurt you in more ways than Joe Burrow can. And I lean on that to give him the slight edge. Now, I despite what Jimmy might say, I actually like Joe Burrow. I mean, he's a gamer. He just plays, man. And I like that about him. But he can't take that away from Lamar. Lamar can hurt you in more ways than Burrow can. And so while I like Burrow as a gamer, I'm going to go Lamar number 1, Burrow with the Bengals number 2, Deshaun with the Browns number 3 with an asterisk. I mean, I still want to see it. I'm not in the camp of like, Deshaun Watson's just going to ramp up and he'll be what he used to be, because I don't actually believe that. Mm-hmm. I think I got to see it. He's gone through a lot of trauma through his own making. Yep. And I don't think it's guaranteed that he's going to play as well as he used to. So I'd like to see that, but I'll put him in as number 3 because, Kenny Pickett, while I respect his game, but I don't see him as a high ceiling guy. So he is what he is, and he's all right. He's solid, but he's not going to blow. He's not going to, tear the socks off the other 3 in the division.
Yeah. And I have mine the exact same way. Look, people can say what they want about Joe Burrow. We know what the ceiling of Lamar Jackson is, and that's the unanimous MVP. Yeah. We can't say that Joe Burrow has that ceiling. He just doesn't. And like the people are mentioning in the chat, Tyler Huntley was going to beat Joe Burrow in Cincinnati last year if he goes underneath on that QB sneak instead of going over the top. And I just find it hard to believe if Lamar Jackson was playing that the game would have even been close. So I think for that reason, I agree with you. I have the Ravens ahead in that category, and the same thing with Kenny Pickett. I think I just wonder what his ceiling really is. Like, I don't think he's got a very low floor at this point. I think he's risen his floor, but where's his ceiling in reality? I don't think he is ever going to be one of like the top. Like, he's never going to be in the mix of Herbert, Lamar, Burrow, Mahomes, Allen. He's never going to be in that group. So I agree. I think that's a pretty fair ranking, although I'll be rooting for Watson to get hit the most.
Okay. Well, okay, that's a good question. I do wonder where you think Watson's ceiling is in this stage of his career.
Yeah, that's a good question. Can he get back to what he was? I got to say, I think he will get closer to that this year. I think he'll have a bounce back year from last year, but I wonder if he'll ever get back, because it's got to always be in your head. Like, I got to imagine defenders around the league are saying something about it constantly, like giving him a hard time, giving him shit, because guys talk on the field about any little chink in the armor that they can get. Like, anything they see, they'll pick on.
Imagine this guy going to opposing stadiums too, like anywhere in the AFC North or in the AFC or wherever, really, outside of Cleveland. I mean, it's going to be booed everywhere. I mean, it's hard to overcome that stuff. And then you got to be thinking in your own mind as a quarterback, man, what do my teammates really think about me?
Yeah, I'm sure there's at least a handful of his teammates that don't like him because of what he's done in the past. Teammates that have daughters, I mean, yeah. So it's how do you ever get past that?
Well, and then you add the layer of dysfunction that is the Cleveland Browns, and I think that's the kind of thing that like starts to erode at your actual potential. So that's my thing with Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. I just, I'm sure he's got some pure talent, so I'm not going to take that away. Some of that stuff is so innate. He'll just step out into the field and do some of that stuff. But the top tier, like Super Bowl pushing, I just don't ever think that's ever going to come out of him. That's just my belief.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that ship sailed, and good for Cleveland, giving that goof all that freaking money with, by the way, still all that stuff hanging over his head. It's not even like it was resolved, and they still chose to give him that much more money than anyone else had gotten. So yeah, good for them, and I hope they enjoy their quarterback for the next however many years. But it looks like the Ravens right now, as far as number one rankings on ours, we have number one in inside linebacker room, number one in tight end room, number one corners, number one in safety, and number one in quarterback. But dead last in outside linebacker room. That's the only one.
That's the only one.
Not bad.
Okay. That's not bad at all.
No,
I think actually looked at the other teams. You'd find them dead last in some of those categories. So
yeah, the Browns have 3 categories that they're dead last in. The Bengals have 2, 2, and then the Steelers have 3. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's as you can see. I mean, this is a competitive division. It's probably the best division in all of football. So that's what that iron sharpens iron. By the time they're done with this schedule, they'll be certainly ready for the playoff push if healthy enough to do so. But let us know how you guys have it ranked. You guys have a huge disagreement on any of how we have these guys listed. If you think we're crazy, we're drinking the purple Kool-Aid, let us know. Certainly in the comments below. But that's it for us tonight. Appreciate you, DK, for stepping in for Jimbo as he tapped you in. And
as always, man,
you filled in admirably, no doubt about it. But we won't be going long. We'll be back soon. But let us know all your thoughts on our rankings in the comments below, and we'll talk later.
See ya.